I'm so proud of myself because when I look up, I've pushed past my fears and I've done everything that it is that I wanted to do. Anything that I said I was going to do, I've done. I remember when I was coming up with the vision, it was like God had gave me a vision for a nonprofit. And, I had no clue, but it was just like I knew I had a name. I knew what I wanted the design to be. And it was like the moving parts. And then it was like just this summer, we just finished up our summer program. And I had 3 girls. And so, I think for me, it's one of those things where everyone's like, hey, what's the next thing? What do you want to do with all of this? What do you want to achieve in X, Y, and Z? And like, I really do think that your 20s is trial and error. And I think you really do need to try a lot of things to get to your thing. Some of us just know innately, like I always knew it was writing and I'm still in the midst of that. But look how much fruit came from just writing. You know what I mean? Like from the blog to a podcast, to a book, to journalism, to a nonprofit, to other things that I plan to pursue. Like that's a very beautiful thing. And so I think, if you're obedient and if you're courageous, I think you look up and the path is kind of made clear, and I think that's kind of how it works. I don't really think anyone has like a set, you know what I mean? Because I've tried different things. Like, I don't want to be necessarily a news anchor, but I wouldn't have known that had I not taken the initiative. Welcome back to the Renaissance Room podcast. And so happy to have you guys. I'm actually just finishing up some sessions with my TA. I think that people who are good at math are so cool because they have this sense of logic to where it's like they don't really ask the why. Their brain is not trying to figure out why is A and B. It's just this is the way it is and this is what it is. And I love it because it's so simplified. And, just stepping into the worlds and the lives of other people has always just been one of those things in which I love, because you learn so much, about the way other people think and the way they do things. And it's just nice to just, be ever growing. So as y'all know, midterms are coming up, honey. The semester is coming to an end. And I hope that you guys are, staying warm and doing your due, getting your things together. We talked about like college and, we've been talking about this for a minute now because that's where I've been. And, I was thinking to myself, I started thinking about college and just like, whether or not Black people were innovative, in terms of like our professions, right? So I talked about my friend. Well, he's not my friend. He's my TA, but he's my my philosophy TA. And philosophy is kind of like math, if you don't know. It's a very interesting concept, honestly. I personally think it's just unnecessarily complicated. But again, I know the way my brain works, I complicate things because I have to understand it to really like get it. And like if I don't understand the why of it, if I don't understand the premise of it, then I have a hard time getting it. And excuse me, honey, I had to run all the way at Carl's campus to get this Chick-fil-A sandwich because they were about to close. And I've been up doing work all day. And I was like, it's 5 o'clock. I should probably eat something. So anyway, I wanted to talk about this because, I thought about Black people in this space of like innovation. And I think it's very clear that like evidently, we are innovative, right? The things that we've been able to do, the things that we continuously do, it's just something about the culture that is definitely very innovative. But I started to think about innovation in contrast to conservatism, right? And it made me think about just how in the previous times when it comes to like professional settings and when it comes to just showing up in the world in a corporate space, right? In a place of, just like conservatism, like you're not supposed to, like, you know what I mean? Like college, for example, like just certain things that, I was thinking about that, like how we show up and why it is that we show up that way. And I think if you have a Black person and they show up differently, we sometimes consider that to be innovative. And I just was wondering, so where do we draw the line between professionalism, right? And where do we draw the line between conservatism? Because I think that you do have to be professional in certain spaces. Like, it's just certain things you shouldn't wear to a doctor's office, It's just a certain way you should speak and dress when you're in lecture, which I think that what we have today, what I've seen at least, these younger kids, honey, they're showing up with the bellies out, belly ring in the class, period, booty shorts with the professor and what. And it's interesting because it's actually women of all races, some men too. And I'm just, it's just interesting to me because it's like, we come from a time where it's like that was not seen as something that was considered professional. And so it's interesting just to kind of see the lines being blurred, yet, sometimes the stereotypes around like ghetto and the expectations for Black people to show up in these spaces and be excellent, so that's a factor, and so I started to think about why it was that a lot of Black people do not like education. And as we know, historically, there really has been an intentional complexity, like with jargon, right? Like, so there has been terminology that has literally been complicated for the sake of people not to understand it, right? Like certain medical, like certain things that they were doing like within the medical field and with Black bodies and experimentation. If you go back and try to find those articles and those journals from those doctors, they intentionally used not like words. They intentionally used words that you cannot understand. And in her book, Medical Apartheid, I believe it's Harriet. I want to say her name is Harriet Washington. And it could be, let me see. I hope I'm right about this Washington. I'm actually Googling it right now because I would hate for it to be something else. Let me see. I got my computer right here. Yes, it was Harriet Washington. Awesome. She talks about how even her, being a journalist, being a medical journalist and doing the work that she's been doing for the years in which she's been practicing it, she couldn't even understand this. And I thought that I found that to be very interesting. And so it's just, I sit back and I thought about the complexity of philosophy, and I thought about the jargon. I personally felt like, even though my mind works in a way of like, okay, I want to understand things, I also felt like the way in which my TA was describing it was a little bit complex and it was unnecessary. And so I started to think about like, why is it that Black people usually, I can't even really say that. Can we really say that Black people don't gravitate towards education? Is that just another like brainwashing tactic to kind of keep us out of these spaces? And not from this belief stemming that, people are out to get us, but more so like really looking at the systemic premises in which a lot of these beliefs and notions were based upon. Like, you really think about that. Like, why do we say that? Because that's not true. There are a lot of Black people who are educated who gravitate towards this, but I do wonder, if that's something that you guys have seen. Have you guys seen that? No? Okay. Well, we're going to move along with this podcast episode. I was walking at Chick-fil-A and I was just thinking about the conversations around like masculine energy and feminine energy and men who are feminine and men who are toxic and women who are, all these different things. And I think at the end of the day, honestly, what made me want to be a role model is because I feel like I embody them two elements very perfectly in terms of like what they're described as. So this femininity being described as something that is a state of flow and ease, and it's very laxed, right? And then there's this state of masculine where it's like very much action oriented. But I think one of the things that I wanted to just say, like, to anyone who is kind of caught up with that and you feel like you're not enough, you start to feel like, oh, I'm this or I'm that. I think you have to do what's best for you. And I know that sounds like such a cliche, but it's so real. Like, you have to do what's best for you. You have to live your life for you and do what feels right for you. You know what I mean? Hello. Like, I just think it's one of those things. I just don't think that you can fit yourself in a box. I think that humans are way too complicated to be like in archetypes. And I think even if you try to put yourself in an archetype, like even if I tried to put myself in this archetype of like, okay, college girl, glasses, cute, this, like, you know what I mean, fashion. Like, I just don't feel like I could fit in any archetype because, like, I'm way too complex, and, like, my personality is way too broad for that. I have way too many interests. I have you know what I mean? And I just think that everyone should look at themselves like that. You know, archetypes is definitely something I'm seeing a lot lately. And I think one of the most common ones I'm going to actually use for an example here is the locking, right? Like, when you lock your hair, it's like you automatically go into this archetype of, like, vegan and spiritually conscious. And you know what I mean? It's like, you could be none of those things and have dreadlocks. Like, I don't know. I think it's like we are now teetering in this space of, like, aesthetic. And I think that the aesthetics of a lot of stuff is, like, very dangerous because you're putting yourself in a box, which means you're suppressing your personality. You're suppressing who you really are. And I think that that's causing a big old thing in regards to, like, our mental health crises. Like, I think that contributes significantly. You know, I don't really think anybody fits into an archetype. Like, I think you are who you are. And, you know, I would just always encourage people to make decisions because they want to make the decision. You know, if you see someone who's locked up, or if you, and I'm saying locked up, I mean, like, your dreads, like, you know, someone who's locking their hair. If you see someone who's locking their hair and you're like, you know, I want to try that, you know, just, I don't know. I just think it's a matter of, like, doing what is true to you, you know, and I think we go wrong when we try to just be other people, you know, like, and then sometimes when it comes to the fashion thing, you know, you could look a mess because you're out here trying to dress like someone, and that style, that whole makeup does not fit. And I'm not saying, like, makeup, like, as far as, like, cosmetics. I'm talking about, like, the whole get up, you know what I mean? Like, it doesn't fit your personality. I really do think that, you know, when it comes to, like, beauty and all those things, like, I don't know, it's just something about underneath the surface that just does not lie. You know what I mean? It does not lie. Like, I can tell when someone's being phony. You know, I can tell when someone is showing up wearing something that's something they probably seen that's not at all who they really are. It's not a reflection of them. You know, your outside should be a reflection of the inside. You know what I mean? And that's just how it, and I always kind of felt like, to be honest, I always felt like I was a lot prettier because I had such an amazing personality. You know, I really do believe that. And, you know, I've had some humble beginnings. You know, I told you I was bullied, you know. So, you know, I just don't despise those humble beginnings, you know what I mean? But anyway, yeah, archetypes are dangerous. Don't follow into archetypes. But yeah, so anyway, I just kind of wanted to come on here and open up this forum for you guys to really kind of think about, like, coming into this space, like, where do we draw the line between professionalism and just blatant, like, conservatism? You know, we know conservatism is this very structured environment that a lot of people in my generation, younger generations, we're not really fitting in, you know? And we know that it is kind of designed in a lot of ways to keep a certain people suppressed and quiet, you know, and not just Black people. I think women as well, you know. I think the founding principles of conservatism is definitely rooted in a lot of prejudice, you know. So I don't know. I just, like, we have to kind of figure out what is that and where do we draw the line between that? Because, you know, I've had situations where I've come in and I thought someone was, like, my kinfolk, and, you know, I may have not made a comment blatantly in front of everyone else, but I noticed that whenever I would try to speak to this person, now this has happened to me actually on a few occasions. I've entered corporate spaces, and, you know, after a meeting was adjourned, I tried to talk to the Black person or the Black woman in the room, and I'm like, man, you know, just say something funny, or just, you know, thinking that it's a safe space for relation, like a point of relation, and that was completely shut down. And the first time it happened to me, I realized that, you know, I felt like intuitively that she just was like, you know what, I don't even want to open this door, because I know sometimes when we open this door, it's kind of hard to shut it, right? Because we may not have that sense of professionalism, right? Like, there's been times where it's like, you know, you're working with a Black person, y'all get along, y'all start relating, and then it just becomes one of those things where it's like, oh, F that job. And you're like, whoa, you know, I need my job, you know, so we want to maintain that sense of conservatism in a good way, right? Because we want to take care of our families. We worked hard for where it is we want to be. But then it's like, you know, considering the fact, like, okay, this person does not have this professionalism, and I don't want to be grouped in with that, right? And then the other time that it happened was I actually realized that this woman was kind of more so like enslaved. Like she didn't know who she was. I felt like she had been in these corporate spaces for so long. And honestly, I'm not saying this to talk about her. I'm saying this to kind of raise awareness, because I think, if you've been isolated, if you're the only Black woman in your company, or if you're the only Black person in your company, you've been there for quite some time, and you're in a head leadership role, so you're not necessarily, communicating with other people in the different career fields of your job. Like you're just kind of in this one space. And I think if you had a certain upbringing, or if you've just been doing something for a very long time, this message really is kind of for millennials. I think that it's very easy to kind of fall into this space and kind of be mentally enslaved a little bit, because, you have to mask yourself for so long that you kind of forget who you are. And I think that any sense or sign of allegiance, you run away from it, because you're like, I feel like I'm going to be whipped. I feel like I'm going to be punished. I spoke to this woman. I said, I'm so excited to see you here. Seeing your face, kind of made my day. I don't know. For me, it was just in a natural sense to just kind of acknowledge that, because she was the first Black woman that I had seen, and she had natural hair, and I just felt it was just so, you know what I mean? I don't know. I feel like representation, it really is important. We talk about it, and we want to put it on lotion bottles and all that. But when it comes to the real world, we kind of shy away from it. But anyway, I felt like she was fearful, and I felt like, I just felt like she had been in those spaces for so long. It just was one of those things where she didn't want to have that point of relation, because she felt like it was threatening. And, as I said that, I did notice that a lot of people who were in the room, the vast majority were Caucasian. And I noticed that, there was this all eyes on us once I said that. It was kind of this sense of whoa, did we just shake the boat here? And it's why is that? Because I don't feel like that's a lack of professionalism. And I definitely don't feel like obviously that's probably going against conservatism, but it's do you see what I'm saying? So I don't know. I think this kind of goes back to another question I want to pose on this podcast episode is, I seen this tweet, and it was actually very relevant, especially for this episode. And it basically talked about, I'm going to paraphrase it. It said, the greatest hustle that Black people have been taught or sold out for or whatever was thinking that we needed a seat at the table when we should have been creating our own. And I thought that was just so revolutionary, because my plan was to come on here and talk to millennials about finding courage to chart their own paths. I feel like y'all have been in positions for 10 years, 15 years. Y'all got the skill set. You got the skill set. You have the fundamentals. You have the determination, and you most definitely have the patience to go out and do the things that you love. But I think that because they have been in this space where they have been conditioned to say, no, you go to college, you get a job, this is what you do, they don't really move. And I think that because they don't move, and I don't want to say this to invoke a scarcity mindset. I'm saying this to just kind of again, raise awareness. But I think because they don't move and they do stay in these positions way longer than they should, I do think to an extent, it kind of hoards and shuts out opportunity for people who could come in and bring innovation into those fresh spaces, to where we can actually move forward in these spaces, if we're going to be in these spaces, right, with innovation. And, not necessarily to combat the conservatism or to combat professionalism, but more so to say, hey, we are here and y'all this is what we're going to do. You know what I mean? Instead of just saying, I'm going to sit down and I'm going to just go along, I don't know. Because I think a lot of times too, when we have these conversations, people are thinking I'm saying just go in there and you just be unapologetically Black and you just go up there. You know what I mean? I think that a lot of times that's the connotation that comes with this. And that's not at all what I'm saying. What I'm saying is you be you. And I think that it takes courage. And I think that if you've been in a position for so long, you've been reaching for something, right? It's like a baby reaching for something, on the counter, and you keep slapping that baby's hand down. That baby going to stop asking. The baby's going to stop asking. Eventually, the baby's going to just be like, okay, clearly that's off limits. But if millennials will have the courage to say, look, we are in a new age now. I have the skill sets. Y'all need to be the ones on these podcasts. Y'all got the wisdom. Hello. You know what I mean? Y'all need to be teaching us how to run our businesses and how to have this professionalism in our own spaces. Okay. But I think if millennials would have the courage to speak up and to move over and to transition and to transform and to see the benefits of Gen Z and to see the benefits of this new technological age and the advancements that we've made thus far, I think that we could actually have like a revolution. I think that things can be different because, it's change and it's inevitable. And I think, like I said, we're negating, and we're not going to negate, but we're more so going to intentionally ignore the negative connotations that come with everything you're probably thinking and actually think about it in a sense of like how beautiful this could be, like think about it like how great could it be to have a new work environment that's a little bit more fresh, to have leadership, to have, team members who are cultured and aware and, and passionate and vibrant and youthful and like all these different things that I think can make up an amazing company. I don't know. I just think that why would conservatives turn away from that? Like it's new, it's fresh, it's funky, and it sells. It's like we want it, I don't know. Again, this is a conversation for my corporate baddies, just to throw that out there, just to say that, because like I said, I don't think everyone wants to be an entrepreneur or is not ready to be an entrepreneur, and I completely get it. I think when it comes to entrepreneurship, it is a much smoother sailing if you have a foundation. I'm gonna just be real with y'all. And that foundation can be either you staying with your parents, that foundation can either be your corporate job, that foundation could be, I don't know, if you're in a healthy relationship, because those actually do have benefits, contrary to what you guys might believe. I just think that in order to really build something great, you have to have a strong foundation. So I don't know. Let me know what y'all think, though. Like I said, I just wanted to come on and kind of create this forum in regards to professionalism, innovation, and conservatism. Okay, so I'm going to leave you guys here with those thoughts. I hope this conversation made sense. And, I want to end by encouraging those millennials, those baddies in their 30s and 40s, who are in these spaces where you're ready for something fresh, and there is someone who is looking up to you who would love to do what you do, but in a new way. And we shouldn't fear that, because we want innovation. We want to push things forward. And I think the only way to really change systems or and I don't want to say break anything, because we're not really here to I'm not trying to invoke violence, okay? But what I am saying is I just think to do anything new, you have to kind of give the people no choice, right? Show up, be you. And when they see that it works, it works. I watched the Elvis documentary and it's not even just Elvis. So many different things, right? And yeah, so that's something to think about. And another thing though, before I go, I had a chance to watch the Michelle Obama interview with Robin Roberts. I'm hoping that's her name. Robin Williams. I'm so sorry. Just kidding. It's definitely not Robin Williams. I want to say it is Roberts. Yay! Y'all, I got to stop second guessing myself, because your girl really be knowing what she's talking about. But listen, I watched the interview with Michelle Obama and Robin Roberts. And when I say it was like an aha moment went off for me, because Michelle talked about how everything that she and Obama sacrificed, right? And I found myself in a situation thinking about being innovative, the things that you sacrifice for the betterment of humanity, the things you sacrifice to be a great leader and to really, accomplish your mission in inspiring change. And she said, right after Trump was elected, she just questioned whether or not it was worth it, whether or not everything that she and Obama sacrificed, was it worth it? And would they be remembered, because I think about the current state of the world that we're in today. It's so much cynicism around our politics and our government. And I'm not here to argue about that. I'm just saying that's what it is, right? this is an observation. This is also kind of a truth, blatantly. But I think about the hope that we all had when we had that. And I think about how we've moved forward and we're kind of back in this state of cynicism. And to be honest, I think that this is kind of the result of us not really paying close attention to our history as Black people and the things we've been able to do, continuously do. And, those who have literally risked their lives for us, you know what I mean? And I think that that's something we really have to kind of start taking notice of and like really being intentional about remembering the names and remembering the sacrifices for people who paved the way for us to be here. You know what I mean? Like everything that Barack sacrificed to give us hope to say, look, you know what I mean? This is possible. You're not held back by your race. You're not held back by certain things. And, I know right now we're in the rise of conspiracies, and I took the liberty to do a little research on conspiracy theories because one of the things that my people have always been bound by is fear. And what we're not going to do is feed into this with conspiracies that are not even proven. You know what I mean? If you are a conspiracy theorist, here's what I'm going to challenge you to do. I'm going to challenge you to go out and find us some truth. Okay? And then we won't have to call it a conspiracy. But if you, as a conspiracy theorist, if you are not courageous to get off of your tripod and put that iPhone down and go out to wherever you got to go to find your truth, then I think you should stop invoking fear in our people, because I think that we've had enough of that. And I think it's very evident that we can be successful and we can have whatever it is that we want as well within means and, rationality. Of course, considering our values and our morals, right? But seriously, and so I think that when we have this rise, I think that this is also literally, it's first of all, it's delaying our purposes, and it's really skewing with our vision. And I just think that our own individual visions, of course, but I just think that's something you kind of have to be mindful of. Man, I'm telling you, TikTok, all these platforms, they're great, but listen, the overstimulation and the consumption of the voices of so many people, be mindful of that, because we don't need all that. Okay, listen, I'm look, did I see it for myself? People can sit here and make sense about certain things, but at the end of the day, if you're left feeling paranoid and possibly even schizophrenic, this is probably not something you need to be taking in your spirit. You know what I mean? Come on, hello, self-love. You know what I mean? Everyone can't sit in these spaces and take in this information. It just depends on how you're wired. Are you a high energy person? Are you neutral? Are you a low energy person? Do you gravitate towards things? I don't know. I just think it's something to really kind of look into. And if you're a Christian, you definitely shouldn't even be, hey, I ain't going to say what you should and shouldn't be doing, but I'm just saying, come on, God says meditate on those things that are good, those things that are pure, those things that are noble, okay? Meditate on these things, right? Keep your mind focused on Him. So that seems like a lot of negativity right there, but I'm going to end with that. I hope that this podcast was enlightening. I hope that it definitely got you guys thinking about, coming into these fields. We know we sometimes lack professionalism, but how much, you know what I mean? In regards to conservatism, where do we draw the line? Where do we draw the line? And Black people are innovative, and it's true, but how much of that is innovation when the truth is that we're just not really given a space to be? And so sometimes it looks like we're being innovative when we're really just being ourselves. We just never really had a seat at the table. And do we want a seat at the table, right? So this is a conversation just to think about. And I hope you guys have a great day. Stay kind, stay prayed up, stay Black.